Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're stepping right into the woodshop to tackle a project that I'd bet almost everyone has encountered, but honestly, very few people know how to execute properly. We are taking a true masterclass on heirloom furniture restoration. If you are tired of amateur quick fixes that just don't hold up, you are in the exact right place. Okay, let's dive into this.
Because we've all been there, right? You sit down at the dining table, shift your weight, and you feel it, that dreadful loose wobble in the chair legs. Ugh. And you know what's worse? It's usually on a chair you've already tried to fix. So why do wobbly chairs always get wobbly again, despite our absolute best efforts? I know it's incredibly frustrating to repeatedly deal with home repairs that constantly fail, especially when you thought you had it all solved the first time.
Well, there's a pretty stark difference between a temporary home fix and true, lasting craftsmanship. You know, the lazy DIY approach relies on just injecting a little extra glue into a loose crack, or worse, driving a drywall screw right into the joint. But achieving decades-long stability, that requires treating the chair with the respect of a professional restorer. It's about actually fixing the structural root of the problem, rather than just slapping a Band-Aid on it. So to get you to that professional level of craftsmanship, we have a clear roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll cover reading the chair. Second, safe teardown. Third, prepping the wood. And finally, the professional re-glue. Let's get right into the first step. Step 1 is reading the chair, using the restorer's eye. A master restorer never just starts yanking pieces apart. They begin by carefully assessing the chair's structural integrity. By firmly holding the seat and gently applying torque to the legs, they identify exactly which joints are actually yielding. You might find that the chair has play side to side, but front to back, it's completely solid. It all boils down to this golden rule of restoration. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If it's not loose, don't touch it. Seriously, you only want to disassemble the loose joints. If you try to force apart a tight, secure glue joint that just isn't ready to yield, you are likely going to fracture the wood. All that does is cause damage, grief, and a whole lot of unnecessary repair work for yourself. To really understand what we're fixing here, we kind of need to know the anatomy of the chair. Most of them use what's called a mortise and tenon joint. The tenon is that projecting wooden peg on the end of a leg or rung, and the mortise is the corresponding hole it fits tightly into. Over years of sitting, moving, and leaning, the chair undergoes constant racking stress. This constant rocking motion literally compresses the wood fibers over time, meaning the tenon effectively shrinks, and the mortise gets wallowed out. Once we've read the chair and identified those wallowed-out joints, we move on to step 2, safe teardown, or evicting the hardware. Let me tell you, true woodworkers absolutely despise the sight of drywall screws and random nails driven into a beautiful chair leg by a frustrated owner. We have got to get all of that out safely. So, dismantling these joints is actually a highly sensory process. You'll want to suspend the chair slightly and tap gently above and below the joint with a rubber mallet. That way you avoid denting the finish. As you tap, give the wood a slight wiggle to encourage the joint to open up. If you uncover an old nail hiding inside from a previous bad repair, grab a pair of locking pliers like vice grips, lock onto the nail head, and carefully twist it out. But here is the big secret. Never use the face of the wood as a fulcrum to pry the nail, or you will completely crush those delicate fibers. Finding those old nails brings us to a punchy little truth from the professional workshop. Metal and wood fight, and metal always wins. This simple truth perfectly explains what actually ruins a chair. Listen, driving nails or screws into a loose chair joint is literally the absolute worst way to fix it. A nail, for example, is just a smooth rod with no threads to actually grip and hold the wood together. And as the chair undergoes that constant racking movement we talked about earlier, the hard metal grinds against the softer wood fibers. It simply tears the mortise apart, wearing out the joint and destroying the chair prematurely. Never use metal to tighten a standard wood joint. All right, so the chair is apart and the metal is evicted. We reach step 3, prepping the wood. This brings us to the absolute climax of our explainer, the exact moment most DIYers fail. The undeniable secret of restoration is this. New glue absolutely will not stick to old glue or old paint, period. See, we aren't just looking for simple adhesion, like just sticking two things together. We need cohesion. Cohesion happens when a cured adhesive forms a bond that is at least as strong as the wood itself. For this, professionals rely on yellow carpenter's glue, an aliphatic resin. But for this cohesive bond to actually happen, the glue must penetrate the porous fibers of the bare wood. If old, dried glue is blocking the way, cohesion is utterly impossible.
Think of these as the fundamental laws of the wood shop, the 4 pillars of wood glue. To ensure a repair lasts for decades, you must have clean joints, tight joints, the exact right amount of glue, and sustained clamping pressure. If you compromise on even one of these, your joint is completely destined to fail again.
Which brings us to the meticulous but completely essential cleaning process. Carefully use a small scraper or chisel to flake away all the old, crusty glue from the tenon peg. Next, take a piece of 120 grit sandpaper and roll it backward so the grit faces outward. This creates the perfect abrasive cylinder to get right inside the mortise hole, lightly sanding away the residue until you hit bare, porous wood. You need pure, 100% wood-to-wood contact.
Now, a quick but critical warning here. While a chisel is great for scraping exposed glue, never use it to aggressively pry a stubborn joint open during teardown. Patience and proper scraping are your best friends here. Prying with a sharp metal tool will simply gouge the mortise and permanently scar the visible surface of your heirloom, which is exactly what we don't want.
Finally, we've made it to step 4, the professional reglue. This is the highly satisfying assembly phase, where all of your meticulous scraping and preparation finally pays off. But wait, before you crack open a single bottle of adhesive, here is a massive pro tip from the restoration world. Label all of your loose parts with their corresponding locations. Just a piece of masking tape with front left or back right works wonders. Because once you apply that glue, the clock starts ticking. You do not want to panic and accidentally mix up your legs, or heaven forbid, try to force a dowel in backward while your glue is rapidly drying. Okay, let's execute the perfect glue up. Squirting glue directly into the bottom of the mortise? That fails because it just pools there, doing nothing. Instead, use a small artist brush to thoroughly coat the inside walls of the mortise, and then completely coat the tenon as well. Then quickly seat the legs using your rubber mallet. If the fit is incredibly tight, a master trick is to drill a tiny, hidden pilot hole in the joint to let trapped air and excess glue escape as you strike it. And when you're picking out your glue, definitely avoid those expanding polyurethane glues. Yeah, they foam up and fill gaps nicely, but they actually lose tremendous structural strength as they expand. Standard, high-quality, aliphatic resin wood glues with a 20-minute setup time are vastly superior for chairs. They give you the strength you need and just enough working time to get all your pieces properly seated before they lock into place. Finally, we gotta fulfill that 4th pillar, clamping pressure. If your shop is equipped for it, you can utilize standard bar clamps across the rails. Just be absolutely sure to use protective wood blocks so the metal clamps don't dent the finish. But hey, if you don't own large clamps, there's an ingenious alternative. Simply stand the freshly glued chair upright on a perfectly flat surface, pad the seat, and stack heavy weights right on top. That downward pressure acts as a perfect vertical clamp while it dries perfectly level and rock solid overnight. And just like that, you've transformed a wobbly, frustrating piece of furniture into a rock-solid fixture that's going to last for decades. Now that you know the true secrets of the master woodshop, from reading the joints to respecting the 4 pillars of glue, what piece of history are you going to save next? Look around your dining room. I bet there's a project waiting for you right now. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy restoring.